Today I'm traversing this pretty windy, narrow, and long two-track up by Wolverine to take you to the Pine Grove State Forest Campground. The Pine Grove State Forest Campground is located to the east of Wolverine on the Pigeon River up in elk country. This would definitely be an excellent fall stay if you're looking for fall colors and the possibility of viewing elk and hearing the remote calls of the elk in the fall season when they're mating. It was actually quite a drive getting back here. If I would have run into another vehicle in some spots, it would have definitely been too tight for two of us to squeeze through and someone would have had to back up. You probably noticed on the drive-in that I had a kayak on my roof, and there were definitely spots where tree branches hit the kayak because my little tracks with a kayak on top was just too tall. That being said, getting back here was definitely something that a all-wheel drive vehicle easily did, and a front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive vehicle probably would not have any problem either. As I walked up towards the first campsite, I saw a sign here that indicates that the High Country Pathway actually crosses through this campground, and I did not realize that, so it was a nice surprise to see a backpacking trail in the northern part of the Lower Peninsula that cuts through here. The High Country Pathway is about 82 miles long, and they tried to spread it out so every so often you run across a campground or a campsite where you can overnight backpack. Here I am parked in the first couple of campsites here that are right by the registration station. There are only 6 campsites here at this campground, and they cost $20 a night. The 6 campsites are pretty big in size. You could definitely put a small camper here or a couple tents. It'd be harder to pull anything other than a small camper or small trailer out to this actual campground, so be aware of that if you're trying to come here. Each campsite has a nice fire ring and a picnic table. As I walk back out of this campsite that I'm parked in, you can see another smaller campsite off behind it here. Definitely probably a little too small for a travel trailer or a pop-up camper, but plenty big enough for a single tent to go on it. The campground is laid out around a nice small loop with a couple campsites on the inside of the loop, so you're going to be back to back to a neighbor, but the majority of the 6 campsites are on the outside of the loop, and you will not have neighbors directly behind you, only side to side, and they're spaced out pretty well. As I cut through this campsite here, I'm actually following a path that leads to the river where you can come down and fish or put in a canoe or a kayak. It's definitely something that you could throw on some waders and wade in, and this time of year you probably don't even need waders because it's like 85 degrees out right now. This is the Pigeon River, and most anglers are coming here looking for an opportunity to catch some brook, brown, or rainbow trout while they're fly fishing out here on the river. This is a decent access point if you're looking to wade out here or take a nice little float, and you're also going to want to pay special attention to trout fishing regulations here on the Pine River because some of them can be tricky if you're not familiar with them. There's also panfish here in the Pine River if you hit up the right area. Hopefully you had your volume turned up loud enough to actually be able to hear the nice, quiet, tranquil sounds of the river and the wildlife up here in the northern part of the Lower Peninsula. I feel like me and the one other camper that's out here are the only ones probably around for an easy mile because this is such a remote little area. Here we have some signage for the High Country Pathway, some fishing information, and the average notice that you get on a typical stream or waterway for invasive species. Heading back up here, we're going to walk right past the water situation that we have here in the campground, and it's kind of unique. Usually I have a hand pump to prime and pump or to just pump my own water, and here we actually have a trickle flow from a little spout. It's not flowing very fast, but it's definitely enough to fill a water bottle or a pot. The only thing I don't like about this is that the water trickle is down pretty low. You definitely can't fill up a 5-gallon bucket or anything like that with water. You're stuck with pots, pans, and maybe a water bottle. Here is campsite number 5 on the left and number 6 on the right. Both nice little tucked away campsites. Number 6 is probably the most remote feeling one. You can't hardly see any neighbors if you're tucked back in there with your camper or your tent. And they're all fairly level, won't have any issues with that while you're here, and it doesn't look like rain is going to pool anywhere. Now, I'd be a fool not to mention that this is remote and in Pigeon River country, and you're very likely to have an issue with pest. I'm not saying you're going to have a bear walk through your campsite, but there's going to be raccoons, porcupines, squirrels, chipmunks, so please be very cautious with your food. Don't just leave it laying out to help encourage the critters, and don't panic. If you do see an animal, they're not going to hurt you as long as you don't do anything to make them angry. This is a great little campground, and I definitely would recommend it.